termite contracts. Are they all the same? Are they worth the money? Or are you getting ripped off? Do you need one? I'm going to try to answer a lot of the common questions we get about termite contracts in this video.
Let's go!
At first, what is a termite contract? A termite contract is basically an agreement that you enter into with a termite company after they've performed some work. Usually it requires the termite company's got to treat your house, either liquid, baits, whatever the treatment is. They've got to treat your house, and then basically the contract is them warranting their work. So a lot of people think you might be able to call someone up and say, hey, I want you to come start looking at my house every year and put me under a contract. It doesn't really work that way. We can look at your house every year, but that's not a contract. A contract is actually warranting the work that we've done there. So it usually requires a treatment, and that's basically the framework. When a treatment's done, it automatically comes with a 1-year warranty, and then that warranty can be renewed every year, usually for a fee. And that's basically the outline of how a termite contract is structured. Now, before I get into describing termite contracts, let me first say that my family's business operates in North Carolina. There will be a lot of similarities probably with whatever state you're in, especially if you're in the Southeast. There's going to be a lot of similarities, but there may be differences. So anything I tell you about termites, understand that I'm talking about first eastern subterranean termites is what we primarily deal with here. And also this is North Carolina rules. And that may vary state by state. But some of the things I'm going to discuss and some of the principles in the contracts are going to be, apply to your state probably. But always check the best resource for most people, or most of your states will have an agriculture department. And the agriculture department is usually who's going to regulate the pest control industry wherever you're at. So always check your local, your state agriculture department. In North Carolina, it's the Structural Pest Control Division. That's where all of our rules are posted, all of the outlines of how we've got to operate, what we've got to do. You can find that there. Also, your local exterminators may have differences. So understand, if you see any of my videos talking about these contracts or anything that I cover, it is specifically to my state, and it may be different in your area. So don't get mad at your local guy, because his rules might be different. He might be telling you the truth. But anyway, when it comes to termite contracts, probably the first thing to separate, the easiest way to separate them is pre-treatment contracts and post-construction contracts. A lot of people don't know in North Carolina, when you buy a new home, that house has been treated for termites, one way or the other. It may not have got a normal liquid treatment. It may have bait stations around it, but that's a whole other argument. I'm going to do a video talking about those two, but for now we're just going to talk about the paperwork, the contract involved. So if you buy a new home, your house has a termite contract. One practice I do see around here that I really, really hate, or there are some kind of aggressive salesmen in the termite business who will go to a new neighborhood, and the state's actually had to crack down on this a couple times. I don't see it as much anymore, but it is still out there, is they'll target new homeowners and sell them a termite contract. But if you've bought a new house, if your house is less than a year old, it is right now, it's under contract. And all you need to do is look at your closing paperwork, look in there for who the termite company was that did the pre-treatment, and you should be able to pretty easily find that information and contact that company. Let them update your contact info. Tell them you're interested in keeping up your contract. You can keep your warranty going, and I recommend that. No matter who that company is, what the contract is, you pretty much have a free termite contract there. So look into that first. Get that done and keep that contract going. Now, if you can't find the paperwork, you can always, contact your builder. Most of the time, your builder's gonna know who we use. He's gonna have a relationship with that company. He'll give you the numbers. You can contact him, and most of the time, you can get it under contract. Even if it's been over a year, even if it's been like a year and a half, 2 years, a lot of us will allow you to pick up that contract. Like for us, for example, if you missed a little bit of time, sometimes now we'll want to go over there and take a look, make sure nothing's going on. But most of the time, we'll go over there and we'll look at it, and we'll let you keep that contract up. So that's always your best option. If you're in a newer house, try that first. And I usually those contracts are good for like 5 years. So there's the initial, whenever you do the treatment, we're required to, whether we contact you or not, or whether you contact us or not, we're required to give you a full year coverage. Now that coverage at a minimum has to at least cover a retreatment. So there's also been a couple situations where I'll go to a new construction house and find some active termites there. And the people buying the house, the builder will say, well, we're not responsible for any termites. But if that house is within a year old, then whoever did that pre-treatment is responsible for going over and taking over those termites. They may not be responsible for the damage, but they, by state law, they have got to retreat that house. So you do have some coverage when you first move in. So just, be aware of that. But I believe it's a period of 5 years that they're required to. Now, ours, we usually will go 10 years. But I believe it's required to at least be a minimum of 5 years, but you have to renew that every year. So once that first year passes, you need to do a renewal. Most of the time that renewal should include them coming out and doing an inspection. Now here's another quick thing. If you have a crawl space and your termite guy does not do an inspection on your house every year to renew that contract, then you might as well not even have you just cancel that. There's no reason to have him at your house. But it should have someone go out to your house, do a full inspection, go up underneath the house, make sure everything's okay. You pay a yearly fee to renew the contract, and you should at least be able to do that for, 4 more times for a period of 5 years. Now, once that's over, a lot of companies will require a booster treatment. And I'd recommend, as long as the costs aren't outrageous, especially the local termite guys around my area, and probably your area too. Most of us are pretty good, honest people. We're not trying to rip anybody off. It's hard work, and I recommend try to form that relationship with them. Go ahead and keep that going, and there's no reason to switch, because most of the time a booster treatment will be much less expensive than if you call a new company in to do a full new treatment. Because most of us, if we go to a new house and we're starting a new treatment there, we're not going to give any warranty based on what the last guy did, because we have no idea what the last guy did. So we're doing a full treatment. That's usually going to be more expensive. Booster treatments may be just perimeter plus treatments, outside treatments, a lot of variance on that. So that's how I would recommend that. So understand, if you're in a newer house in North Carolina especially, you probably already have a termite contract. I recommend continuing it as long as you can. Go ahead and update your information, let them know who you are, form that relationship, have someone look at your house once a year. It is definitely worth it to go ahead and do that. Another way that you may have a contract without even realizing it is if you've recently purchased a home, even if it's not new construction, it could have been an existing home. In that case, very often you are required to do a wood destroyed insect report or a termite inspection when you buy the house. If that was done and termites were found at that time, some sort of termite treatment may have been done. And if a termite treatment was done, you would have some sort of warranty. Now, it's going to depend very heavily on if you had a spot treatment done or if you had a full treatment done. That's kind of a first breakdown of different types of contracts. In North Carolina, if you do a spot treatment, you don't really have a warranty with that. You do have to have, there is a minimum warranty that's got to be issued that basically guarantees that area for active termites, a retreat only. So, for example, if a spot treatment was done, then for 1 year, the company that did that spot treatment has to warranty that there are no active termites in that spot. And if termites show back up, they have to retreat that area. But it's usually no kind of damage warranty whatsoever on a spot treatment. So spot treatment is really the worst kind of thing you can have done when you purchase a home and termites are found. That's usually you don't want to do a spot treatment. Now, if a full treatment was done, then you do have some sort of warranty. And most of the time that warranty can be renewed. So you want to look into your paperwork and see if you can find who did the inspection. And if they're the same company that did the treatment, you can very often just pick up that contract. Even if it's a little bit late, most of the time we'll allow you to, we may want to go over and look at it first, make sure nothing crazy's happened. But most of the time we'll allow you to keep up that contract. So that might be, if you bought an existing home, that might be the first thing to think about. How long ago did you buy it? If it's been with that last year or two, there's a possibility you could have that in place now. So check that first. Look at the paperwork, contact the company, do some investigation. You may currently have a contract. When it comes to breaking down the actual contracts, what is the difference in the actual contracts themselves? Probably the most important question to ask is it a damage warranty or is it just a retreat warranty? That's the biggest, most important difference that you'll find in the termite contracts themselves. So a retreat warranty means if if you're under a contract with this company, they've treated the house, they're coming out every year, they're monitoring the house. A retreat warranty is just, if termites show back up, it is just going to treat the termites. It's not going to cover the damage. And that, that could leave a bad taste in your mouth. So, really consider that. What kind of coverage do you want? There could be a cost difference, but as you shop around, you might be shocked to see that there's not much of a cost difference sometimes. Sometimes those two contracts will cost the exact same. And so that is the most important thing to find out. If that's the only difference between the two, always take the damage warranty. It's crazy not to. So a damage warranty is kind of again, the same thing. The house is treated. The company is usually inspecting it once a year. It's being, whatever the terms are for the renewal, it's being renewed every year. If termites show back up, then most of the time, the termite damage is also going to be covered. They're going to treat the termites for free, and the damage is going to be covered for free. Now, there are some exceptions. There's another part of the contract you also need to look at, and that's exceptions to the damage warranty. This is more going towards, now we're taking apart the actual damage warranties. The damage warranties will usually have a lot of exceptions in there. Those exceptions, those exclusions will include things like moisture, for example. Let's say you're under contract with someone for like 3 or 4 years. They did a treatment to kill some termites or for prevention, and every year they come back out and they re-inspect the house, and maybe they've told you, look, you've got high moisture in the crawl space. Your moisture level was 30% in the crawl space. Something needs to be done about that. Now, they may go a couple years and keep telling you, look, something's got to be done. But after a while, they should cancel your contract if you don't fix that. Most contracts will have an exclusion in there where if you have high moisture in your crawl space, and they'll be able to document it. They'll put on your report every year, look, the moisture's high. And so in that case, if you get termite damage, you're probably not going to get covered. They're going to be excluded from any kind of liability when it comes to covering that damage. One of the main reasons is with subterranean termites especially, and then again, speaking in my area, and I think most of the South is the same. If you have a wet crawl space, if the wood members of your floor system are, above 20%, termite colonies can actually live in that wood without ever returning it down to the soil. And so they will thrive in that wood, and sometimes the treatment won't even stop that. In North Carolina, you can get a suspended colony of eastern subterranean termites. You can get swarmers get into that wood somehow. They can make their way to that floor system. If the moisture is above 20%, they don't have to return down to the ground. That could be a suspended colony within that floor system, and the treatment is ineffective, and so that you're not going to get coverage that way. That is going to be one of the things that is excluded from a damage warranty. Also, sometimes things like inaccessible areas. Now, that will need to be spelled out. If there's an area or crawl space that someone cannot get to, that is very often going to be excluded from any kind of warranty, but that will need to be a waiver to address it, and also specifically spelled out in the contract that they couldn't get there. So if they didn't know they couldn't get there, sometimes there might be a little bit of a question there. But also just areas that cannot be seen. That kind of stuff can't be covered sometimes. Also defects or leaks in the house. If you have some kind of a leak somewhere and it rots out the floor and termites also happen to get in there, most of the time a damage warranty is not going to cover your rot with a little bit of termite evidence. So that's another situation. Now, however, if it's something that's gone on for a long time and the termite guy never told you about it, then he may be on the hook for that. Especially moisture. If you've got severe moisture in your crawl space and your termite guys never told you about that, now the termite contracts don't cover necessarily moisture, but that is a big part of what we're doing there. And so there may be some liability that you can address with him about, why didn't you let me know that my floor was rotting out? So there's a lot of questions there. But that's the most important breakdown, is between does it cover damage or does it just cover retreat? So know that difference for sure. Also, another thing you might want to consider is the renewal fee. Renewal fees can sometimes get out of control. Is the renewal fee just the introductory fee? Is that same renewal fee going to last through the whole course of the contract? Like for us, for example, our most popular contract is a damage warranty, lasts 10 years, has to be renewed every year. Our average renewal price is $125. Some are a little bit cheaper, some are a little bit more, depending on the size of the house, size of the treatment. But basically, that renewal fee will stay the same through the course of that contract. We don't raise that price. Now, that contract's for 10 years, then you can do a booster treatment. At that time, it may be readjusted. But that's basically how ours works. Sometimes a company will sell you a contract that has an introductory renewal fee. So you have the initial treatment, which covers the first year, but that first renewal fee might be very, very low. It might be, $85 or maybe $125. And then after that first year, that introductory fee goes up dramatically. You might have a $400 or $500 renewal fee. And if that's the case, I would shop around and go with someone else. You shouldn't allow that. Also, of course, like I said, the amount of time the contract covers. Sometimes you'll need to do a booster treatment at the end of 5 years. Sometimes you got to do a booster treatment at the end of 10 years. Some of the old school contracts, they didn't do any booster treatments. Back whenever I first got into the business, my grandfather started the company. Back then, they used chloridane. And so they would do a termite treatment, and then they would just renew it every year, but they would never call for a booster treatment unless you had termites. And we still, to this day, we have some of those old contracts that we renew. I got to go up underneath there and crawl the things for like $45, I think. Some of them still around, and some of them maybe $55. But anyway, some of those old contracts that were never retreated, and most of them we've never had any kind of problems with. So that chloridane stuff, it was really something. But that stuff's gone. The chemicals today don't last that long. So usually there'll be some sort of time limit on the amount of time that termite contract is in effect for until you need a booster treatment. And that's an important thing, because in the course of 10 years, if our contract, we don't have you treated except for every 10 years you do a booster treatment, compare that to a contract that's going to have you booster treatment in about 5 years, that's going to be a much bigger cost doing that booster treatment that quick. So that's just another thing to measure. I think, boosting it in 5 years, it's probably a better thing to do, but that is something to take into account when you're looking at and comparing those two contracts. Also, transfer fees. Is the contract transferable? The original pre-treatment contracts, I believe, are required by law to be transferable. But with us, all of our contracts are transferable, and there's no transfer fee. So if you have a termite contract and you sell your house, the buyer can pick up that contract for free with no transfer fee. Some contracts they do not allow transfers. Some contracts have a high transfer fee. So that's another thing to consider, especially if you might sell your house within the next few years. It's much better to be able to sell your house with a contract that's transferred to the new owner for free. That's a good bonus if you think you might be selling your house soon. And then, of course, there's the method in which the termites are being controlled. Now, I'm old school. My personal belief is you are much better off doing a chemical treatment. I just think it's a far superior product, mainly because, let's say you have me come out and treat your house for termites, and I treat it with Termidor, which is my favorite chemical. That's what we like to use. Let's say you don't want to renew the contract. Let's say you just decide you don't like me and you're not going to do business with me next year for whatever reason. The good news about Termidor is if we've done that treatment right, it's got Termidor there, your house is protected. You're going to be okay. You've got good protection there. You're probably going to be fine. Now, I don't recommend doing that, but you've got some protection there. The other method is going to be with baits. Now, baits can also be effective. I do think some of the bait, especially baits, come a long way. It has been improved. I think the newer, always active baits are much better than the old school baits where they wait to get a hit, then they put bait in there. I think baits are better now than they used to be. But if you have a bait treatment done and you don't like the guy anymore and you don't want to do any business with him, after that first year, and he comes to remove those bait stations, or even if they're still there, after that first year, you don't have any protection. Once that bait, if it's not changed out properly, if it's not monitored properly, there is zero protection there. So you are at the mercy of when termites show up, and that's the bad thing about that particular method. So those are some of the main points that you want to cover when you're shopping and comparing the different types of termite contracts. Okay, so when it comes down to it, is a termite contract worth the money or not? So of course, you got to ask yourself all the questions I've told you about. What does it cover? What are they doing there? But the idea with a termite contract, though, is really you're looking for the coverage. You're looking for protecting your home for termites. So the way to think of it is not what's going to cost you right then whenever you first sign up. You're going to want to protect your house long term. So think of it in the course of 10 years. So with our method, let's say the average house, let's say about a 2,400 square foot house with a double car garage, our average price on that is going to be probably close to $800 to $1,000 maybe. We'll just say $1,000. The renewal fee is usually going to be about $125 per year, and it's going to be with a damage warranty. So let's break that down. What's that going to cost you in 10 years? So $1,000 for the initial, and then $125 a year every year for 10 years. That's going to come out to about $2,250, yeah, like $2,250 is what it's going to cost you in the course of 10 years to keep your house protected for termites. That sounds expensive, but it's really not. You break that down, it's not all that expensive. Now, one thing that I'm seeing a lot of people do here lately, a lot of the newer companies, a lot of the new methods being done to sell people termite contracts, is changing the way you pay for it. So there's the options of paying for it monthly. We currently don't do this. We may in the future, but right now we don't do this. But you might get someone who presents you an estimate that pays for it monthly. Let's say there's no upfront fee. You just have to pay $50 per month is all it's going to cost you to keep your home protected for termites. That sounds cheap. That sounds like a much better deal. Whenever someone comes and tells you you got to treat it for, $1,000 or whatever, and then the other guy says, look, we're going to, I don't know, put bait stations down and charge you $50 per month. You don't have to do that big fee. It sounds cheaper, but I want you to really think about that. If you break that cost down, $50 per month, you're actually paying $600 per year. So as with us, a 10-year period, you've paid $2,250. With the $50 a month, you've paid $6,000 in 10 years. So it's almost 3 times as much money when you're doing it that way. So keep that in mind. Break down the cost of what it's actually going to cost you in the long term to determine for yourself, is it worth the money or not? Because that's got to be determined up to you. You're gonna have to take the risk, decide, is the protection worth it? What are the risks? Do your own research about how predominant termites are in your area. I can tell you in the southeast, termites are the #1 cause of major damage to a house. Natural cause, anyway. So yeah, termites are a significant thing, and termite treatments may cost $1,000 here, some $100 a year to keep up. But termite damage can very often cost tens of thousands of dollars to repair. So that's where you're really measuring, is it worth it or not? So you got to take that into account. Now, finally, are you getting ripped off? Are termite contracts rip-offs? I would say most of the time they are not. Most of the time you're getting a great service for what you're paying for. However, I have seen a big change in our industry. I've seen something that's really kind of disturbed me, and it's mostly the guys who do the bait stuff. Now, again, I'm not against bait. I do think baits can be very effective. There are some great companies out there doing baits, but here's the thing that I want you to pay the most attention to. If you have a termite contract and they're using baits, that's okay as long as they're doing what they're supposed to do. However, if you have a crawl space and the termite company that you're paying money to every year to protect your home from termites is not going into that crawl space at least once a year and doing a thorough inspection, in my opinion, I think you are getting ripped off. I think a contract like that is a rip-off. Anybody who calls themselves a termite company, calls himself a termite man, and is collecting money from you every year to protect you from termites, and they tell you there's no need for them to go up underneath that house and do a thorough inspection, I believe that contract is right. I think you should cancel that contract and shop. I don't care where you are, and it's not, I don't say you need to use me, but use a company that's actually going to get their butts in that crawl space and look at it for you. Because even if they're very confident in how, I'm very confident in my product. It's very rare. Once we treat your house for termites, we never have termite or fail. You're not going to have termites. But when we're under that house, we're also looking for things like moisture. We're checking that, making sure the levels are staying good. We're checking for leaks. We're checking for problems underneath your house that could create an issue and could, surpass our product. Because if it, like I said before, if a house gets wet and the moisture in the floor system is very high, it doesn't matter what kind of treatment you have. You could get a suspended colony in there that could cause you major issues. So that's the one case I would say that a termite contract is a ripoff, and that is that the termite company does not do yearly inspections of your house. And if you're a slab house, you should be going inside. So I would say, once again, that's the time when I think you are getting ripped off, if they're not doing thorough inspections every year of your crawl space or the interior of your house. Other than that, though, as long as you've got a good, honest guy, they're doing what they're supposed to do, whether it's baits or liquid treatments, if they're doing if they're monitoring the baits properly, if they're changing them out properly, if the termite guys, the chemical guys did a proper treatment, and if they're checking that house for you every year, giving you a thorough inspection, I would say as long as that renewal fee is somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 to maybe $150 a year, I'd say it's one of the best values you can get as a homeowner. I genuinely do. Having a professional go up underneath that house and take a look at it for you, alerting you to issues, I think it's one of the best deals you can find anywhere in any kind of home service. So that's my recommendation as far as termite treatments and termite contracts go. Do your research and keep up that contract. It's cheaper in the long run to keep it in place. And then one last thing for everybody who's wondering why anybody even needs contracts. Why do termite contracts exist? The main thing about termite contracts, why they exist, why we exist doing this in this business, is your homeowner's insurance does not cover termite damage. Termites are one of the #1 things in the whole world that damages property, and termite homeowners insurance companies don't touch that. They don't cover that. So that a lot of people are shocked by that. They didn't know that. So that's the main reason for having termite contracts. But anyway, we appreciate you watching these videos. Like them, subscribe, share them with your friends. We try to put out good, honest content to give you some good information about what we do, what our industry does. And in the end, I do think it's worth it to use a professional.